Good afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In the series on economic sociology, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss on forms of exchange with special reference to reciprocity and gift. Now, this lecture is being discussed with reference to Marcel Mauss's work, The Gift, one of the classical work that helps us to understand the idea that even in simple society, there was a kind of a market exchange trade taking place which was different from the way in which it takes place in the so-called capitalist society. And therefore, the understanding of gifts helps us to understand a new way of doing away with the dichotomy between the so-called simple and the Western capitalist society. Now, when we look into Marcel Mauss, he was a nephew of Emile Durkheim and was influenced by the work of Emile Durkheim. He kind of is looking into the same way in which society is seen as a collective, is seen as the study of society through the use of social fact, and therefore Marcel Mauss considered gifts as total social fact. The comparative study of the gift system in different primitive society and archaic culture was carried out by many scholars on the idea of the total social fact. Social fact was a kind of a methodological tool used by Emile Durkheim to understand social reality, and he was giving us the understanding that anything could be a social fact, a chair, a car, anything. What is important is that they are external to us, they are a priori, and the most important dimension is that it exerts a moral pressure to be a part of the collective. Here he takes on the same idea and sees how the exchange of gift, reciprocity and gift giving are considered as total social fact. Marcel Mauss positioned the social fact in a multidimensional context. He considered gift giving as economical, juridical, moral, religious and methodological fact. Marcel Mauss' exposure to the Polynesian ceremony of gift reflects all these dimensions. Mauss used a consistent theme to explain a common total phenomenon and its related meaning. He argues that all social phenomena are connected with each other. Therefore, they are total. So, you can't just understand gift giving in kind of separation to the economy, to the polity and the religion. It's just one part of the larger whole. So, to understand it, you have to understand the other dimension of the society. So, all kinds of institutions are expressed through the act of gift exchange. That is what he means by the fact that they are total social phenomena. The notion of total phenomena implies that an expected social behavior exists among members of a society. Now, when we look at this expected social behavior, it critiques the assumption that gift giving was voluntary. It is a part and it's kind of a regulative norm which every individual has to be a part of it. Mauss argues that gift exchange is not voluntary even if it seems to. So, for the Western anthropologist studying the simple society, it appeared as gift was irrational. They did not have any rationality to study it. When this is being negated, the idea is that they are organized, they are non-voluntary and part of the formal system. Gift exchange is rather obligatory since it depends on an expected social behavior. The gift is only one part of this social whole. In a simple society, a gift must be paid back, otherwise this whole is broken. So, there are three dimensions or three parts of gift exchange. The first is to give gift. The second is to receive the gift and the third is to reciprocate by giving back the gift. Now, if you at any point you give and you don't receive or you don't reciprocate, the chain is broken or the whole it's only one part of it, and therefore much of the anthropological literature was just looking into the first dimension, that is giving. They neglected the other dimension and the assumption was to consider as a non-economic, irrational, voluntary institution. In a system of gift exchange, no one has the right to refuse a gift or refrain from the ceremony. An individual faces a social obligations to attend in order not to seem afraid to reciprocate. If individuals don't perform a reciprocal exchange, it means they will become unequal to others. It means that each gift is a part of the system of reciprocity in which the honor of the giver and recipient are engaged. So, it is not kind of only just kind of giving it just for the sake of giving it. Your position in the society, your honor, prestige, your status are all linked to the fact of giving, receiving and reciprocating the act of gift giving. Now we are going to refer to the act of gift giving and how it is a total phenomena by referring to one of the forms of gift exchange, which is known as potlatch. The best example of a total social phenomena, according to Marcel Mauss, is the alliance between two phratries in North America which are connected with a complicated exchange system. Mauss suggests to call this phenomena potlatch. The word comes from a Tusnuk and it actually means feed and consume. Marcel Mauss defines the term potlatch as a total service of an agonistic type where the act of giving, gift giving via the potlatch akin to a game of chess. So, we see that rationality can be explained by the way the gift exchange is taking place, and that is why this reference to the form of gift exchange referred as potlatch becomes very significant. Chessmates can only be achieved if the receiver lacks the ability or time necessary to reciprocate in due time, forging them into a debt of sorts that obligates them to the gift giver. As a system of total services, Marcel Mauss uses the potlatch as a metaphor of how relationship between people and groups must be constantly fed and consumed to maintain balance and peace. This often results in competing interest, status challenges and hierarchies among the giver and the receiver. And therefore, we kind of see that it is a relation of equality and inequality, and gift giving is not only to be understood in terms of say an object which is given, it is symbolic, and the symbolic meaning is that it also has reference to power and dominance. So, the reciprocal nature of the potlatch is a means to outdo the original gift giver and doing so obtain greater prestige, honor and glory. So, if you do not reciprocate implies that the person who gave you gift is at a lower in the hierarchy, and therefore, you have the power or you dominate them and refuse to reciprocate. These exchanges were not only exchange of goods and wealth or products which we kind of understand in a modern form of market, but there was also exchange of rituals, military services, women, children, dances, festivals and fairs. Giving, which are given as gifts, are obligatory and enclose the danger of war, private or public. Far from altruistic, the potlatch becomes a symbolic gesture of dominance and control over others. Now, when we understand potlatch as a system of exchange, we see there are three principles other than law of reciprocity. Reciprocity is the first principle. Besides that, there are other principles that govern the gift exchange. Number one is time limit, number two credit, and third is honor. In gift exchange system prevalent in primitive society, gifts are exchanged with the assumption that they will be reciprocated at a later time. So, the time limit is important. It is later, but it is not that it is kind of left over a long period of time. That would give a message that the receiver is not ready to reciprocate. Marcel Mauss contends that this society possesses a rudimentary understanding of time and credit in the economic dealing, similar to that of modern society. Now, in a modern society, time, credit, debit are all kind of considered as principle of rationality. If these principles were present in the archaic society, then we are about to understand the elements of rationality were there in simple societies as well. Consequently, it could be argued that the concept of transactional exchange has its root in archaic civilization. So, the present form is a developed form of what was already there in the simple society. The potlatch system is distinguished by the notion of honor, which is inextricably linked to the level of destructions involved. Marcel Mauss possessed that primitive people understood the importance of maintaining honor and prestige in the society, much like modern individual. So, how do we maintain honor and prestige? It is through our wealth, our kind of economic gain that we make in society. Now, gift was one element of the system which was enabling individuals to maintain. So, it cannot be totally reduced to the idea of non-material transaction. The potlatch system comprises the entire social institution, religious, mythological, magical and economic. However, we will see that this gift exchange that Marcel Mauss discusses is not limited only to human beings, but it extends to nature and gods. So, we have to understand that technology was not so developed and there was a dependence of human being on nature for survival. So, therefore, there was not only a reciprocal relationship between individuals, but also between the individual and the unseen force, or what can be referred as the spiritual essence, or it could be referred as gods. In these societies, the spirit of both the dead and God are considered to be true owner of things and possession of the world. So, there was a very prevalent idea of an invisible force, and this we see it even when we talk about Durkheim's elementary forms of religious life. He talks about this invisible force which is enabling individuals to be part of the collective, and it is referred by various terms, like one of the term is mana. Therefore, gifts to gods serve the purpose of buying peace and maintaining social harmony. So, there is an understanding that your dependence is on nature. So, you have to kind of keep the spirits or the unseen force content and happy, else they would be kind of destruction. Marcel Mauss, in his classical work on gift exchange, elucidates that the practice carries a spiritual essence that permeates the fabrics of society. And when we are referring to the spiritual essence of gift giving, here he is making reference to the way in which it was kind of prevalent in Melanesia, and he is making reference to the belief system of the individual on certain kinds of spirits. Here the reference is to two kinds of spirits, which in regional term was known as Hau, H-A-U, and Mana. Mauss states that there is a power that drives individual to pay back the gift. There is a kind of an unseen force which kind of makes individual or compels individual to return back the gift, and this in the millennial society was known as Hau, the essence of returning the gift. In Polynesian culture, the Hau is the spirit of things. It is spirit that could cast its spell on individual if they did not return a gift. Moreover, this power has spiritual origin and spiritual nature. In essence, Hau is the main force that drives someone to reciprocate a gift. It is not enough to simply bestow upon your guest lavish gifts consisting of food, spices and other material good. It is the Hau or spiritual power of the gift that beholdens the gift receiver to the gift giver. The more important and relevant the Hau, the more power it exercises over that person or group who possesses it. This spirit could hence retain magical and religious control over the recipient of the gift. Related to the concept is the concept of mana. How it could be is kind of considered is that valuable, what is considered as valuable gift or what is not, and it is referred to as tonga. The tonga is the carrier of the mana, which is the magical, religious and spiritual power. Mana is the essence of everything that is transmittable and source of honor that come with the possession of its artifact. Both the how and mana inhibit the tonga. The former connects it to origin, while the later turns tonga to a bless or a curse to its recipients. Now, when we look into these terms as how and mana and kind of referring to the idea that gift exchange also has a spiritual dimension or magical element. Now, what is the importance of these terms? The importance is that both the terms express the power of the gods and the divine generality, that is the reciprocal relationship between the god and his worshipper. And this reciprocal relationship is explained through the moral act of returning or the obligation to receive and reciprocate. Both these represents ethnographic representation of the strategic spirits in archaic culture. These concepts reinforces the fundamental obligations of giving, receiving and reciprocating. It encapsulates a sacred trust that binds members of a community in continuous interdependence. They extend beyond the physical gift to encompass intangible elements such as respect, honor and social harmony. So, when we look into the spiritual essence of gift exchange, we see that unlike Western society, where power is maintained through ownership of desired object, so we are kind of spending, going on consuming, and through the consumption of certain desired objection, we are able to maintain a high status or become powerful in society. In the case of Northwest Coast American Indians, Melanesians and Polynesian, the ownership is good of such good is symbolic, and these goods are not only of material value or they are not only kind of purchased through money, but it also includes a large amount of non-material good. So, honor, esteem, status is not only through the amount that you can spend in terms of consuming product, but also in how you maintain relationship with your friends or with your relations. The owner of an important spiritual powered item imbues his essence into the object, and thus in a sense ownership is always his. However, the possession of the spirit or the power transfers from one person or group to the other. This allows them to share in its spirits or the power and maintain peace and respect among all its enemies or allies. So, the idea is it is not something to be possessed, or it is not something that you can start kind of considering it as your. It is a group, it belongs to the entire group, it is based on the idea of sharing, and this idea of sharing or something that belongs to everyone avoids enmity and violence. Marcel Mauss uses spiritual essence as the basis for reciprocation, as refusing to do so could and often does lead to warfare, mistrust and broken alliances. Drawing upon anthropologists like Malinowski and Ratcliffe Brown, Marcel Mauss explores the rules associated with hosting a potlatch and the importance of generosity. So, this both, it is part of the certain kind of generality, or it is also kind of involved with your idea of moral compulsion. At the same time, it is not voluntary, it is not autonomous, it is regulated by norms, it is regulated by the rules established by the members of the society. So, as a ritualistic practice, host must adhere to strict rules and decorum or risk offending their guest. Of equal importance is the length of the time that a receiver keeps a gift of great and before giving it back to someone else. So, we discussed that there are certain elements of the exchange, and time is one of the element which regulates the way in which it is exchanged. Failure to reciprocate, it could take up to say a year or more before the receiver is able to become the giver. What often dictates the length of the time is the spiritual relevance of the object it received. So, they do not have a calendar, they do not have something like a mechanical watch to keep when will the gift be reciprocated. This time which is measured is in terms of how the social relation is maintained. If it is harmonious, then the idea of not reciprocating will not be problematic. But if something kind of uneven happens, if there is some kind of disharmony, some kind of violence, then this idea would be that the time has lapsed to reciprocate. So, equally they cannot simply be passed on to just anyone and must in truth only be given to those deemed worthy based on status and rank. So, it is not kind of haphazard whom one wants to give, it is given. The rule is kind of specified that the exchange is taking place among members of similar status and rank. Failure to reciprocate, as we have discussed, brings dishonor, conflict, resentment and mistrust. However, if one is not able to reciprocate, at the very least one may offer is what is termed as basi, which merely pierces the skin, does not bite and does not conclude the affair. Thus, the receiver remains indebted to the giver until they can repay the generosity bestowed upon them in kind. So, the whole idea is that if you do not have the capacity to reciprocate, the time can be kind of stretched, and after a point of time it is kind of still considered to be reciprocated. It will not cause the harm at a larger scale. Refusing gift and invitation also kind of leads to conflict between individuals. This fits into the Moses paradigm of three obligations associated with potlatch, that is giving, receiving and repaying. The obligation to give, receive and reciprocate are spiritually and morally regulated. Marcel Mauss adds that part of the grandeur of a gift exchange is also the willingness to destroy. Items of importance but that lack the spiritual essence are often burned as symbols of wealth and power. It is not even enough to give, but to be able to destroy that also plays a part in the power dynamics between the giver and the receiver. Now, when he is trying to make this study of gift exchange and he has looked into the idea of gift as social phenomena, gift as having a spiritual essence, he is making reference to the laws which existing in the ancient Rome, classical Hindu law and Germanic law to demonstrate how the gift exchange was kind of unique in name only. They are known by different names. It's in, say in Polynesia it is known as potlatch, in some other part it would be known as other names. However, there was a form of exchange to be found in almost all types of society. Prior to Western system of commerce and trade, similar forms of exchange existed throughout human history, and rather even in modern society forms of gift exchange are present. It is his analysis of the three types of law that elevates the exchange that he expertly compares various elements of it with the nexum. The Brahmin rules associated with gift exchange, the Angbinde and the concept that a receiver is tethered or beholden to the giver. Marcel Mauss relegates the potlatch to the annals of history as an example of living fossils. As he states, Institutions of this type have really provided the transition toward our own forms of law in economic. They can serve to explain historically our own society. Thus, the potlatch and the culture that utilizes them allow a glimpse into human history and human nature that would otherwise been lost in time. So, to conclude, we see that Marcel Mauss shows that society without modern forms of currency, a medium of exchange such as cash or sell, nonetheless have legal, political and economic system that regulates the flow of goods and services. Cultural belief about mystical properties of gift favor compliance and therefore social solidarity and stability in society. While reciprocal exchange maintain hierarchies within and between societies, gift cycle involves spiritual being demand transfer to the poor that buffer the effects of inequality. So, with this whole idea that gift is a total social phenomena, it helps us to understand economic, political, religion, mythology. We have a good understanding, and for reference we can read Marcel Mauss' The Gift. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.